Welcome to Walkouts and Knockouts, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm joined by my man Ariel and Johnathan. How are you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm wonderful. We have a slightly watered down fight card, not as big as it was supposed to be. We were promised a lot of fights on this card that did not end up happening. Obviously, the big one being the Sandhagen versus Dillashaw, the potential title eliminator in that bantamweight division. That was going to be a good one. A couple of other fights that were canceled as well. Just looking back, obviously we know everything that happened with Diego Sanchez and all that stuff. Did you get to take a look at any of that press conference with Josh Fabia and all that?
No, fill me in.
Okay, so Fabia, for anyone who doesn't know, let me put up a banner so anybody who's watching or just hopping in knows what's going on. So basically, Joshua Fabia went into the fighter meeting, and he basically, I don't even know if I spelled this word right, but oh well.
Anniversary. That's close. Is that the dude that had a lot of trouble making weight?
No, that's another fight that got pulled too. But with this is the guy that represents Diego Sanchez, and now looking at Diego, he's one of the legends of the sport. The first Ultimate Fighter winner, and coming out to the end of his career, a lot of the announcers, the commentators were talking about, is he fighting too long? Is he overextending his stay, etc. So he goes in the room and he's like, "Hey, you guys got to stop being biased." And then he starts, being kind of an asshole about it and talking down to the reporters, saying that they're attacking his fighter, etc., etc. In the meantime, he's just going basically off on the fighters. And then you see Paul Felder is like, "What the F are you talking about? Like, you're not there's nothing there. Like, why are you doing any of this stuff?" And it's just hilarious, man, to see this guy actually just try to get his name out there. And then they put up a video. I'll see if I can pull this video up of him and Diego Sanchez like boxing his head. Like, did you get to see that video?
Where he's hanging upside down or something?
Yes, he's hanging upside down and he's like boxing his head, and it's like all weird. Oh my God, it was just the weirdest thing. They're so weird. Like, what is going on with the Diego Sanchez, Joshua Fabia thing? Do you have anything to say about that? Because it's just so like out of my mind how someone could go out of their way to be this dumb.
I'm not very familiar with Josh Fabia, but I know that Diego Sanchez is a interesting character for sure. He's always been a little bit unique. So I guess I'm not that surprised that his managers might be a little bit of an oddball. You said it was his manager, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not that surprised that his manager is an oddball. Definitely his pre-fight ritual or training methods or whatever that was that he was doing with Diego Sanchez, hanging upside down, smacking him, and like that's a little weird. I've never really seen that one. Does he manage anybody else?
I don't think right now. I wouldn't think that he does. I would hope not. I feel bad for you. You get repped by Joshua Fabia.
Okay, so that's probably a good thing that it's just Diego Sanchez, but I guess those are my thoughts on that.
Here, I have it right here. Let me see if I can share my screen. Awesome sauce. All right, so we have this screen shared right here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the video.
Like, what is he doing? Why?
He's just getting slapped and like elbowed.
Like, what is why are you kicking him in the head? Like, he's an older fighter too,
It's like, what?
why are you, I mean, Diego's been in some wars. Why are we piling on? And like, that's hard to explain, man. I don't really know.
It's
Jesus,
it's so weird. But getting back to the fight card, it's just one of the fights that got pulled. One of the weirder things that happened, and yeah. So we have a couple other fights that got pulled too. Obviously, the Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw that got canceled. Another fun one. Jimmy Flick was actually supposed to fight on this card. Jimmy Flick, if you don't know, is somebody who fought on Dana White's Contender Series, and he actually was an amazing fighter because he's great with the subs, dude. And he attempted, I think, about 15, probably not that high, but right, but a lot of submissions in his fight against his opponent. I think he attempted almost 7 or 8, which is really high to get off. He was going from transition to transition. He was making his opponent look like an absolute rookie. And then he goes and he retires before he gets his first UFC fight after winning the contract. And it's like, dude, like, you're this insane fighter, and the reason he says is, he like, we don't have a backup plan as a fighter, as this fighter, we don't have 401k, all this stuff. So that's another interesting an interesting fighter that dropped out as well. Holly Holm was supposed to fight Juliana Pena, and Pena's getting that title fight with Nunes now, so that's going to be a fun one. Nicholas Mota, for anybody that watch that is a heavy-handed guy who comes in, he hits hard, he's fun to watch. He was also another guy on Dana White's Contender Series, but he's out with an injury. But let's talk about this main event, because it's still a pretty fun main event. It's not too half bad. We have Marina Rodriguez taking on Michelle Waterson in the strawweight division, right? This is a fight where Waterson's moving up a little bit. This is also a short notice fight, and they're stepping in for 5 rounds, and they're going to throw down. Rodriguez is coming off that knockout win she had against another fighter who's fighting on this card. Actually, that fight got canceled. The Amanda Ribas fight, right? She knocked out Amanda Ribas when Ribas was the huge favorite coming into that card. And on the other hand, right, she was supposed to be fighting Angela Hill, who I thought beat Michelle Waterson in the main event of that fight. So let's get into this fight, a little bit of the X and O's. How do you see this Michelle Waterson Rodriguez main event breaking down?
Kind of an interesting fight. I mean, I like Michelle Waterson personally. She's got that karate base, high level in and out movement, just like you would expect from a karate fighter. She likes to blitz opponents with 3, 4, 5 shot combos, and then she'll just dart right back out of range, kind of similarly to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Obviously not at that level, but it's a similar stylistic approach to striking. She's got good kicks, which she'll double up on. Both to the body, side kick to the body, side kick to the head, deep to the legs. She's pretty well versed and has a diverse striking array of moves that she goes to. She's kind of maybe an underrated grappler. I think she's like a solid grappler, decent wrestling, good trips from the clinch, good in scramble situations. As far as Marina Rodriguez, she's a patient, fluid striker, very good at distance. She's going to have the height and reach advantage over Waterson, I believe. Strong knees from the clinch. Resembles very much, like, it looks like she comes from a Muay Thai background for sure. Leaves a little bit to be desired, I guess, in the takedown defense department. Both Amanda Ribas and Carla Esparza were able to put her on the mat and had success in that area against her. So I think that that's probably where this fight becomes interesting, and where Michelle Waterson really has a decided advantage in this fight.
Yeah, I think when you look at this fight, you have one fighter in Rodriguez, right, where her striking, like you said, her Muay Thai that is her background. Her Muay Thai, her striking style is really her strength, and being able to wait, to be patient, wait for the right time to pick her spots, and put somebody like Amanda Ribas down with that. I'm not sure if it was a left hook or a right hook, but I know it was a hook for sure that put her down. But she has that patient game plan. But like you said, a lot to look more forward to from the takedown defense, because you haven't seen much of it yet. Right now, I think she's sitting about 59%, which isn't great, right? Which isn't great, because if you're going against a fighter who has the ability to not only keep you at distance, what Michelle Waterson will do is she'll keep that right hand out there. She's known for punching the air a lot, but what she'll do really is just keep that range. She'll keep that range out there. She'll push kick to the body. She'll keep kick to the top of the thigh just to keep range. So she's able to keep you at distance. And if she wants to, she can also take you down. And that's what I think is going to be the key in this fight, because if she wants to, and this kind of showed in the Angela Hill fight, right? When she was losing the stand-up battle, she was able to mix it up. And I think that ability to mix it up in this fight is really what's going to help put her over the top and come out in this fight. But I do think Rodriguez does have a slight advantage in as far as just the pure boxing goes, right? If she's able to enter that boxing range and get into that range, maybe back up Michelle Waterson to the fence and circle so she's able to avoid those kicks right on the money, I think she's going to be able to get into that range and close it up. But if she's not able to get past those kicks, get past that jab, I think she's going to have a hard night. And I think if she presents her hips too open and she wins the striking battle, that Michelle Waterson is just going to go ahead and take her down. Any final thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, there's just one interesting thing that I want to bring up is, like, when you fight karate based fighters, if you're not like elite or very good, or at the very least like extremely cognizant of where you're at, where the range is being fought at, like, or where at what range the fight is being fought at, a lot of those fights end up being fought at the range that that karate style fighter wants to fight, because they're not going to stand in there in the pocket with you. They're not going to fight at the range that you want. They're going to pick their shots. They're going to be patient with it, and they're going to get in and out, in and out. They're very rarely just going to sit in your punching or kicking range. So it's going to be interesting to see if Ribas, if she does have that. Sorry, did I say Ribas? I meant Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
If she does have that Muay Thai background, if she's able to walk Michelle Waterson down, like you said, close the distance and turn it into a little bit more of a brawl, I think that's where she has her best opportunity to win this fight.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. This fight kind of compares, and it's not the same thing, right? But you compared Michelle Waterson to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. It kind of reminds me of the Thompson versus Jeff Neal fight, right? Where Jeff Neal, really a pure boxer. He has those decent, strong kicks too, but his hands are really where his power is at. And he was just unable to get into that distance. He was unable to get in range. Stephen Thompson was able to keep him out. I just can't wait to watch Stephen Thompson fight again, man. He's such a wonder to watch. He's such a phenomenal striker, and he's the NMF, man, the nicest MFer out there. So wonderful guy. Before we get into predictions, as always, we're going to finish the card with the predictions. Any final thoughts on this one before we go ahead and get into the co-main event?
On this fight particularly, no. On Stephen Thompson, absolutely agree with you. Huge Stephen Thompson fan over here. This is a pro Stephen Thompson show.
Absolutely. Pro Stephen Thompson. He's such a nice guy. He does some funny videos too. He did one with Houston Johnson, this bodybuilder who they did shin conditioning. So they took his shins, they lashed it with wood, they raked it with the roller thingy, they did all that. So that was pretty fun to watch. We go ahead and check that video out on YouTube. Shameless plug, because it made me die laughing. He also did a deadlifting after eating laxatives video, so that's another shameless plug. I'll go ahead and watch that one as well.
That sounds like a very bad idea.
It's a horrible idea. Why would you do it? Getting into the co-main event, we have Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who's taking Alex Morono, stepping in on short notice, coming in. Right, Alex Morono, he's coming in off of a, not the best record. He lost to Anthony Pettis. He had that win over Reese McGee, lost to Chaos Williams, won against Max Griffin. So he's had an up and down kind of career, 2-2 over his last 4, decent record overall. Not the finisher, right? Not the biggest finisher in his career. He's mostly gone to decisions. 18-7, so not super bad, but he's pretty well rounded. If he wants to get you to the ground, he can get you to the ground, and he can do it there as well. And obviously, Donald Cowboy Cerrone, what's there left to say about him? Great kicker, has great head kicks. He's good in the clinch. He's able to take you down, submit you. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife to the highest level when you think about it for Donald Cowboy Cerrone. How do you see this one breaking down?
Man, watching I don't know if I want to say downfall, but I'm going to say it. Watching the downfall of Cowboy makes me sad, man. Like, he'll always be one of my favorite fighters. Just a brawling Muay Thai berserker that gets into, firefights every time he gets in there. And, he has a storied MMA career, but present day Cowboy Cerrone has slowed down quite a bit, right? Like, the chin and the hand speed aren't what they used to be. He's always has been a notoriously slow starter. And it can get him in trouble sometimes. Like, he takes a little bit too long to get into fights sometimes. When he's on, though, he's an aggressive, walk you down and smash your face savage who can also function extremely at an extremely high level as a counter striker, right? At the very least, that you're going to get a good fight when Donald Cowboy Cerrone is in the octagon. He's going to bring high-level Muay Thai, picturesque techniques on his knees, on his kicks. Question is, though, like, how much does he have left in the tank, right? I believe he's lost, I want to say his last 5 fights. Is it 5? The last one was like a no contest or something?
Correct. So lost no contest to Nico Price, lost to Pettis, lost to McGregor, lost to Gaethje, lost to Ferguson. That's a hell's row of athletes.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's fighting, like, those losses are against the elite of the elite. But if you're actually just like ignore his, I don't know if you can really ignore his opponent, but watch Cowboy in those fights, you can see, like,
you can tell
there's a drop off in his all around level of performance, his speed, his everything. It's still a fun fight though, right? Like Morono isn't spectacular, I don't think, in any one area, like you alluded to. He'll plant his feet, throw bombs in the pocket. He can take you down, like you said. Kind of has a tendency that I noticed to just like run after guys. He'll just follow them around the octagon instead of cutting off the direction that they're going in, cutting crisp angles. I think Cowboy is technically more proficient. Can take advantage of some of the holes in Morono's game. Morono sometimes has a sloppy striking approach. He'll get a little wild. But I will say in Morono's defense, he's an in-your-face type of guy. Maybe the way that he does it and gets to that range isn't ideal, but he'll get in your face. And that's the kind of fighter that Cowboy has in the past struggled with. So that makes this fight interesting for me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to say, like what you mentioned, if he's going to have that slow start. Because if he has a guy up in his face throwing bombs, and what we've seen with this decline of the chin, right? His chin is just deteriorated right before our eyes, right? It's just been, he's taken so much damage, and you just see him being able to falter a lot more quickly than before. So I'm going to ask you this question before we go ahead and we move on to the next fight. Do you think if Cowboy loses this fight, do you think we that this is it for Cowboy, that this is the end of the line here in the UFC?
I think if he wants out, like if he wants to retire, then it's probably going to be his last fight, obviously, right? But I think as long as Cowboy wants to keep fighting, if he's at least competitive in there, like I think he'll just get a longer leash than most fighters get, just because he's just, he's like a company man type of fighter, right? Like he'd always step in there. He'd always bring fun fights to the octagon. He'd be there when the UFC needed him. So he's a fan favorite as well. So unless he is hanging it up, I don't think he's going anywhere if he loses his fight. But I do think that he's kind of close. We might not be too far away from that. Like if you lose 6 straight fights, I know the last one was a no contest, but you lose 6 straight fights, especially if he gets finished by a guy who isn't regarded as like an elite fighter in the division or even a top 10 guy. That's, it's not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to go there and just be 0-5-1 in your last 5. It's really hard for him to see that. And like you said, I think there's a spot for Cowboy in the UFC still, because he's well beloved, right? Mm-hmm. He's one of these guys that everybody loves. You look at somebody maybe like Robbie Lawler, everybody loves him, but he can't perform at that level anymore, right? Same thing with Tyron Woodley, or opposite, sorry, with Tyron Woodley. He's had a lot of people that criticized him, a lot of people that have talked down on him, that we don't have the same Tyron Woodley. He's not the same person as before. I think that's a little bit different with Cowboy, because he's a company man. He's going to do whatever. If he has to fight the unranked fighter, he'll fight the unranked fighter. If he has to, be the co-main event on a fight night to Marina Rodriguez and, Michelle Waterson, then so be it. That's what he'll do. And I think he does have a place in this company. I don't think he has that many more fights. I think, a couple more fights, and he'll probably have, a nice little go away fight to go away too. But I think that if Cowboy loses, pretty close, especially if it's a bad loss, it'll be pretty close to the last we see of Cowboy Cerrone. And any final thoughts on this fight before we get to the battle of the Kneels?
No, let's go to the battle of the Kneels.
Awesome. So this is actually the fight that I would have preferred to got the main event tonight, because I do believe this is probably the more exciting fight, one of the more exciting fights of the night. You have Neil Magny, cardio machine, UFC mainstay, been here for a minute, taking on Jeff Neal, who's coming off a loss, but we got to remember in that loss he had, he's first of all facing Stevie and Wonderboy Thompson. Yep. Second of all, he had that horrific injury where he almost died, and he was in the hospital for a long time, and he had to come back and really fight his way back from near death experience, coming back to that fight. And he didn't look like himself. He wasn't throwing the shots that you see, and obviously with Wonderboy, it's hard to throw those shots you want to, but didn't look as good at his last fight as he did in his many other fights before, because Jeff Neal is a hell of a fighter. He has he could call him hands of steel for a reason, right? Because he has hands of steel and he's putting dudes down. How do you see this one breaking down?
Yeah, man. Neil Magny is a long, well-rounded veteran welterweight, been in there with some of the best fighters in the world. Like you said, he's been around for a minute, has elite level cardio, super well-conditioned fighter. I don't know if I want to label him as kind of a gatekeeper type at this point in his career, because he's got so many wins and just so much experience, but I don't know if he's really like a top top level fighter in the division. I don't really know how many of the, let me ask you, how many of the top 10 guys in the division does he beat, in your opinion? Right now?
Right now, probably maybe 2 or 3. Maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. So what we think is he's a good fighter, but not a great fighter, correct? Right. Okay. Right. So that's where I'm at with him. I don't know if I'm labeling him as a gatekeeper, but good fighter, not a great fighter. Still though, exciting fighter, right? Like the cardio is always there. He'll push a good pace and doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, which is kind of something that I think might be an issue for him depending on the matchup. In this fight though, like, Jeff Neal is technical, explosive, heavy hands, tons of power. Like you said, they call him hands of steel for a reason. He had been on an absolute tear with 4 finishes in his last 5 UFC fights before Stephen Thompson did to him what Stephen Thompson basically does to almost everybody. I think he matches up pretty well with Neil Magny in this fight. I think he can get inside and probably land some bombs. Might be able to take him down, put him against the fence, just kind of control this fight a little bit. We'll see how the cardio holds up. I expect it'll be fine though. I'm excited for this fight. Like you said, this is probably the fight I'm most excited for tonight.
Yeah, I think this is a fight where we can really see the next contender come in a little bit more, right? This is the division. It's pretty wide open. It's pretty wide open. There's a lot of people that have already fought Usman, and he's kind of saying that he's lapped everybody right now. So what I mean as far as wide open is that if somebody can work their way up, like Vicente Luque has been doing, then you can make yourself, hey, I'm the new guy. You haven't beat me yet. Let's go ahead and, throw down. So I think this is going to be a good one. Like you said, Neil Magny, what he brings to there, he has a good jab. Really good fundamentals, right? Really good fundamentals. I think he trains in Colorado. I believe he trains up there at Elevation Fight Team. But he has phenomenal cardio, is able to take you in deep waters, able to take you down, able to stand with you. Not a knockout power, not a finisher per se, right? He'll most of the time fight you to a decision, gets you to a decision. He'll look for his openings when it's there, but he's always a little more patient. Always a patient fighter, patient but always consistent, and that's always what you like to see with Neil Magny. And I think that's why he can give a lot of guys problems. But when it comes to those higher level guys that are really good at one thing that can dominate him, it's going to be a lot harder for him to implement his game plan. And I think a guy like Jeff Neal could be that guy, because Jeff Neal, pretty decent on the takedown defense. Taking a look at the stats right now, he's 92%. Wow. 92% takedown defense. I didn't even realize it was that high.
Who took him down?
That would be a good question.
And it probably seems like a smart game plan, because that dude will absolutely flatten your face. So,
yeah, he comes in. Let's say who took him down. So, Chase Walden in Dana White's Contender Series.
Okay.
So he's gotten taken down in his first fight in the UFC, and then hasn't gotten taken down since. So that's something to look forward to in this fight, because he's probably not going to be able to get taken down. Maybe once. There's always one in there that you're able to get. I think you might be able to get one, but I think Jeff Neal, I think his takedown defense is phenomenal. I think he's going to come back looking a lot better than he did in his last fight, and I think he's going to get a knockout in this fight. I already spoiled the prediction, I guess, but I do think he has a little bit better hands, and he'll be able to take a little bit of advantage in this fight. Any closing thoughts on this one before we get to the next one?
No, I'm with you, actually. I don't know how much more there is to break down on this one.
Well, we do have a decently fun fight, just because of the nicknames, right? Maurice Green, the Crochet Boss. That's the best nickname tonight, I think. The Crochet Boss, taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Maurice Green hasn't had the best time lately, right? 2-3 in his last 5. A loss to Greg Hardy, a win against Gian Vellante, loss against Olenek, loss against Pavlovich, win against Albani. Looking at Marcos Rogerio de Lima, loss against Romanov, where he got absolutely choked out. Like, Romanov just put his forearms on his neck and just choked him out. It was like the biggest "I'm just bigger than you" kind of choke out. That's all it is. 2-3 in his last 5 as well, right? Loss against St. Preux, loss against Stefan Struve. Hope Stefan Struve is enjoying that retirement, right? But a couple of decent fight. What's your thoughts on this one?
I think that Maurice Green is massive. First of all, good stand-up, loves the teeps to the leg, to the body, dangerous, devastating with the high kick. You got to have your guard up all the time with him, and it's tricky. Like, that's part of the reason why he's throwing those teeps and those straight kicks and the round kicks to the body and the legs, right? So that he can set up that high kick. So you got to be on your P's and Q's with the kicks with him. Good jab, straight right. puts combinations together really nicely. He can hit you from distance in a way that like most fighters just can't because of his sheer size. But I find like he struggles when he isn't leading the dance. He doesn't look to counter very much. We saw that in the Greg Hardy fight. He really doesn't check low kicks very much either. And De Lima is a beast, like just a monster. Real quick before I get into De Lima, did you? I assume you saw that ridiculous arm triangle submission that he had over John Vellante.
Yes,
he got from the bottom. Have you ever seen that before?
It's one of those things like the Kevin Holland thing is like knocked out from his back. It's like you don't see that happen.
How does that happen? Like he had no leverage in that situation. It's just like he just must have a ridiculous squeeze because I don't know how you get that choke from that spot. Dude was on top of him. John Vellante was on top of him in half guard, and he just kind of put his arms around his neck, locked in the arm triangle, and next thing, it didn't even look like it was that tight, but I digress. De Lima just wants to bang, though, man. Like, he'll stand in the pocket, throw bombs. I think he might struggle with the length of Maurice Green a little bit in this fight. But like I said, Green really doesn't check any low kicks. De Lima throws ferocious low kicks. That's something he should look to take advantage of. I would be pretty surprised if this one goes to the judges.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And obviously, because we said that, now it's going to 100% going to go to the judges.
Of course.
But like you said, Maurice Green, he doesn't use his height and his range as well as he should, right? I feel like he leaves a lot on the table. I feel like, there's a lot of times where he's just kind of plotting there, thinking, maybe overthinking what he wants to do. Well, like you said, De Lima, he'll throw those bombs. On the ground, he's great at his submission. So I think his way to get to this fight, right? Like you said, chop the legs down on Maurice Green and then go for that takedown. Lead the dance. So that way Maurice Green isn't able to use that range because, he is the bigger guy, although it's a heavyweight fight. And you got to think, the bigger guy is tired out a little bit quicker. He's 6'7". All right. He's 6'7" against a guy that's 6'1", 6'2", 6'1". That's a 6-inch advantage. So, for us to think that this can happen, we got to show that shows that, Maurice Green leaves a lot on the table to be desired. But it's an interesting fight. Like you said, I don't think this fight goes to the judges. I think this is one of the fights that are just in there to get somebody knocked out. You're going to see somebody probably get knocked out. And Maurice Green has been talking that a lot about his, kind of his career resurgence. So we might see something. I always talk about the Jan Blachowicz, right? How he was 1-4 in his last 5, on the cusp of being cut, and now he's UFC champion, right? This is the beauty of the UFC versus boxing, right? Boxing, you get one loss, that's it for you. In the UFC, you can go 4 or 1-4 in your last 5 and still go on to make a run to the title. So that's what the beauty of this sport is. I think Maurice Green does have a page to turn in this fight. I think he's going to be able to be a little more aggressive. I think he probably understands how to use his range a little bit more. I watch a lot of his interviews just because I like his nickname, man. The Crochet Boss is going to come out there picking an upset because right now he is the slight underdog in this fight. Moving on to the next fight. This is actually a pretty fun fight. You have two dudes that are pretty well known, but this division is just so deep.
Ridiculous
that it's like they're not as talked about as the guys top, the McGregors, the Poiriers, the Chandlers, the Oliveras, right? We have Gregor Gillespie taking on Diego Ferreira. Gregor Gillespie 13-1. That one loss obviously came against Kevin Lee on that absolutely beauty of a head kick. That was amazing. Just in I think it was in New York too, so it was in front of his home crowd. And then you have Diego Ferreira who's coming in. Lost against Dariush, which was an absolute really close fight. But he's still a legit threat because he's great on the feet. He's able to take you down. As far as Gregor Gillespie goes, though, this man is a pure wrestler. Heavy hands, pure wrestler. That's what this guy is. He doesn't mind eating the shots, and you'll see a lot of time. He does step in. He'll eat those shots, and he'll try to work past them. I'm not sure how much that's going to work for him anymore because the thing with Gregor Gillespie, he has a great record, but he's only been fighting like once a year, right? He doesn't fight that often. And I think with that, he's aged faster than his record can show how good of a fighter he is, which is, unfortunate for him because if he was a little more active, I think he could have made a run to the, at least the top 5 with his hands and his wrestling ability. I think he could have made that run and understand just how not to get hit so much. He could have done that. But like you said, Diego Ferreira, man, he's really slick. He's good off the back foot. He's a good counter puncher. Man, that fight with Beneil Dariush was great. He showed that he was able to get taken down too, right? He is able to get taken down. And, with a guy like Dariush, who's as good at submissions as, him, it was harder for him to work on the back of his guard, right? So if Gregor Gillespie gets his fight down, it's going to be interesting to see if Gregor has that, what's it called? That knowledge of how to, avoid the submissions, that IQ of how to, get into those submissions. How do you see this one breaking down?
Man, Ferreira is aggressive, in your face, high output of strikes, loves the firefight, solid, simple 1-2 that he'll throw. Gillespie's a really good wrestler, like you said, just decent striking, not particularly good. Pretty raw, but lots of power. He'll mix in the shot sometimes and then come back up top with the right hand. Fight, he's a fight finisher though, right? Because I think Gillespie has finished 11, I want to say, of his 13 wins, something like that. Only gone to decision twice. So he's a fight finisher. His best bet is probably, like you said, to get this fight to the ground. But Ferreira's no slouch down there, man. Acquitted himself pretty well in the Dariush fight. He's a black belt in BJJ, good on the ground. Submitted Anthony Pettis, if I remember correctly, who, of course, is no slouch on the ground on his own. So this feels like maybe a tough stylistic matchup for Gillespie, but at the same time, I could see many scenarios where he gets a takedown and just dominates this fight. So it's kind of a tough one to pick. This one's probably the one that I'm having the hardest time picking tonight.
Yeah, it's unsure because is Gregor, because this fight can go both ways, right? From the same position. That's the thing. Gregor could end up in the guard and dominate from the guard, or Gregor could end up in the guard and Ferreira dominates with the submissions off his back, right? And I just want to address Ayan Ali. What's up going on, brother? Appreciate you commenting. Asking what's happened to Chris, that guy Weidman's leg. Didn't watch, but it snapped. Was it his tibia or his fibia snapped? One of those two, or maybe both. And what they did is they put rods through it. They screwed it back straight. The good thing, unfortunately, the good thing with those kind of breaks is when it breaks clean in half, it's a little bit better because you don't have to go and actually fully break that bone and then put it back together. So snap cleanly in half. He says he wants to get back in the octagon. So, prayers out for him. Hopefully it goes well. What's up?
Can we just talk about how crazy that was and the fact that how many times does that happen in the UFC? I want to say less than a couple,
Three.
Okay, 3. That's almost, and one of the only other times it's ever happened was to Anderson Silva fighting Chris Weidman. And it's just it's just crazy how things can come full circle. What are the odds that happens to Anderson Silva in that spot against Chris Weidman, and then the same damn thing happens to Chris Weidman just a few years later? Man, I hope he has a good recovery. I hope he's able to come back. If he doesn't, I think we'd all understand, but that was nasty. That was so gruesome. It was tough to watch.
It was. And actually, I fell asleep on that during that fight card.
You did.
So I missed 3 of the fights, and then I woke up to see this guy snap his legs because I missed the Jimmy Crute, the Jimmy Crute Anthony Smith fight, and then I see this, and I'm like, oh, nice. I woke up just in time, and then he snaps his leg, and I'm like, oh, and then like you said, it's like poetic almost, right? Not in a good way, but kind of in a bad way. And he's the one that Anderson Silva threw that leg kick and snapped his leg.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, he does it against who did he fight?
Uriah Hall.
He fought Uriah Hall, and then it snapped against him. So now if I'm Uriah Hall, dude, I'm worried I'm never throwing a leg kick again because you're going to worry that's going to come full circle and it's going to happen. But getting back to this fight, right? Pretty good fight. Pretty fun fight. I think overall it's going to be a good one. I think that whoever can impose their will, obviously, right? Whoever's going to impose their will is going to get the win. But I think whoever is going to show their technicality on the ground more, I think this is what it's going to come down to. I think it's going to be a lot of high scramble situations. I think we're going to actually see Ferreira want to probably stand up because he knows that if he's on his back and he's working, he still probably won't win the round. I think we're going to want to see him stand the fight up and keep on his feet and work from there a little bit more. I know we lost the Angela Hill and that fight. Was there a fight that stepped in?
That's a good question. I haven't checked because I just saw this right before we came on air. I'm actually not sure, to be honest with you. I think they had 6 main card fights.
Okay, cool.
Maybe they'll just roll with 5, or they'll put the there was an undercard fight.
They have Phil Hawes.
Yes, that's right, Phil Hawes. So maybe they move that fight up.
Yeah, right now it's still on the prelim. Looking at the Tapology report, it's still on the prelim. Hey, shout out to my guy Carlston Harris, by the way. He's the first guy who's from Guyana to fight, and that's where my family's from. So
Oh, really?
shout out to that boy Carlston, dude. I hope you get. He's the first fight of the night. It's gonna be on ESPN Plus, so you can go ahead and check it out. He's gonna have that Guyana flag over there. I think he's also worked in Brazil. So shout out my boy Carlston Harris, man. Go ahead and get that dub. But do you have any thoughts? Did you get to check out any film for Phil Hawes?
I mean, I'm familiar with Phil Hawes. I didn't scout him a whole lot for this, but yeah. I mean, remind me who's he fighting? Because I mean,
Kyle Dawkins.
Kyle Dawkins,
the younger Dawkins brother.
Give the people your quick breakdown, and then I'll jump in.
So Phil Hawes, right? Super heavy-handed, man. He's coming out there, pretty much to knock you out. I think that's his way to go. As far as Dawkins goes, he's a little more patient with his striking. He's a little more just waiting a little bit more coming in. I think for Phil Hawes, the biggest thing with him is he going to gas out, right? Because after the first round, if he doesn't land that knockout punch, he typically tends to slow down a little bit more. But he does. Both of these guys do have wrestling in their back pocket, right? They're both able to take you down and keep you on top. If you just look at their averages so far, right? For Phil Hawes, averages 3 takedowns every 15 minutes, so 1 per round, right? And as far as Dawkins, averages 2.3 takedowns every 15 minutes, so about 2 every fight. So both these guys are able to take it on the ground. The problem is Phil Hawes 0% on the defense, 0% on the defense for takedown defense. So you might not be able to keep it standing. I think Kyle Dawkins go ahead. The safer pick for me is always what probably could happen long term in the fight if it goes past the first round. I think Kyle Dawkins gets it done. Megatron can definitely knock him out. Don't get me wrong. He definitely can knock him out really, really fast. But I think if the fight goes past the first round, I think it's Dawkins.
I'm gonna go with Phil Hawes. I don't know that much about Dawkins other than what you've just told me. But as far as Phil Hawes goes, he's a beast, like you said. 5 of his last 6 fights all been finished. I believe he got knockouts in 4 of those 5 finishes, something like that. He's a beast, man. I'm gonna go with a first round Phil Hawes knockout just cause.
Hey, you're probably right. Honestly, I have no confidence in Kyle Dawkins winning this fight. Just looking at their physique, man. If you look at their physique, it's just not fair. Let me go ahead and share my screen again, just to
Phil
show.
Hawes is ridiculous.
He looks like a bodybuilder fighting. Like,
yeah.
Where are we? Here we are. Like, which one of these 2 guys do you think is gonna win this fight? Like.
I'm gonna go with Phil Hawes.
You got to go with Phil Hawes. He just looks like he looks like a little bit more of the athletic guy. But hey, gonna be a fun one. Let's start off with the bottom of our card and work our way up. I think the hardest fight on the card is the first one. Diego Ferreira to Gregor Gillespie. How do you see this one going down? Who do you see taking the dub?
It's a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Ferreira. I think he just has a few more avenues to win this fight. Like I said earlier, Gillespie could get the takedown and just like blanket him and dominate the fight from there. But, Ferreira's pretty good off of his back, good on the ground, got a BJJ black belt. I like his output on, if the fight stays on the feet, he has a decided advantage. He's just a better striker. He's more technical. He'll push the pace. And if he's pushing the pace and Gregor Gillespie's backing up, then that limits his takedown game a little bit. So I'm going to go with Diego Ferreira by decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's going to be able to keep it on the feet. I think if he gets onto his back, Gregor Gillespie is going to learn really quickly that the submission game is really dangerous for him.
Yeah.
And I think if it stays on the feet, Gregor just leaves his chin up too high, man. He doesn't, like you said, he's good at using his wrestling as, his ability to get his striking there, because he'll feint the takedowns, get them to drop their hands, and then come with that overhand right. If kind of what happened with Masvidal is he thought that Usman was going to go down for a takedown. He threw that left hook. He left himself wide open, and that straight laser beam just came down and knocked the sweat out of that man's head.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. I think Diego Ferreira gets it done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say second round TKO. I think Gregor leaves his chin a little high, and I think he gets it done out here. Maurice, the Crochet Boss Green, Marcos Rogero de Lima. Who do you got taking that one?
I'm going with Maurice Green. I think, when you were giving your breakdown, I thought you were going to lean in the other direction there. And so I was like, okay, it's good. We're going to disagree on this one. But I think we might be on the same page unless you trick me again. As far as Maurice Green goes, I think, just if he's able to maintain the distance, I think he's got a big advantage with the straight strikes. There's a big size difference there. There's a big length difference there. I think he keeps the fight standing and probably finishes the fight. I'm going to go in the second round with a TKO for Maurice Green.
Okay, cool. I'm actually, I did pull a little trickery. I have faith in Maurice Green, but I don't think he's going to win. I don't believe what people say. I believe what they show me. So from the tape that I've seen, um, I don't see him winning this fight. I think he's going to have a difficult time using his range, which is kind of weird to say because he's so big. I think he's not going to be able to use his range as well as he wants to. Those low leg kicks can take an effect. And I think if this fight goes to the later rounds, he's going to gas out. I think he's going to show that he slows down. And a lot of times when he starts getting hit, he doesn't move. He'll just start shelling up. So if he does that and one of those shots he thinks is coming straight comes around the side instead, he can get caught with one of those hooks. And I think against the cage, pushed up against the cage is where De Lima is going to have this fight mostly try to go. He's going to try to push him up against the cage, wear him down, and then be able to grind this out. Maybe second round TKO, grinds him out in the first round.
He's going to have to use the teeps a lot. He's going to have to maintain that distance. And that's something that he's shown, to throw Belly versus Kelly in the octagon. Okay. I got Belly via unanimous decision in a terrible fight. I think as far as Maurice Green goes, I think he's got pretty good teeps, and it'll be interesting. Is he able to maintain the distance and keep De Lima where he wants him, or does Rogerio De Lima get in there and just smash his legs and make it ugly? And that's the avenue to victory for him. So
yeah, for sure. I think both these guys have a pretty similar likelihood of winning this fight. Let me take a look at the odds on this one.
I will tell you. So Maurice Green is actually plus 180, which I think is probably a little bit that's kind of juicy to me because I think this fight is a little closer than that.
Yeah, it's more of a pick'em.
Yeah,
I think it's a little more of a pick'em.
Sneak peek at my parlay.
Good call. Yeah, Belly versus Kelly in the octagon.
You don't want that. Trust me.
I think we're going to see a lot of footwork from Kelly Olynyk, right? We're going to see a lot of Kelly keepers. We're going to see the Barely Eats the Miami Girl special on live. I think if Belly gets on top, man, I don't think
it's over. It's a wrap.
I think that's it. I think all he has to do is just lay on him, and that's going to squeeze the diaphragm enough for Kelly Olynyk to get tap out. So
Kelly's got nothing off his back. Belly's got a phenomenal top game. This one's an easy one, man. Come on.
It's an easy pick. Thanks, brother, for that comment. Moving on to the next fight. Which one is the next? That's the Jeff Neal versus Neil Magny. Battle of the Neils. Who do you think takes it down?
I'm going with Jeff Neal. He's a beast. I think this is his shot to kind of move up in the division. I think he takes full advantage. He's got some stylistic advantages as well in that if he's able to close the distance, that power is scary. So I think he gets this fight. I want to pick a finish, but I just don't know with Neil Magny. I feel like the experience, the savvy, the know-how, the cardio, he might drag this to a decision and make it a competitive fight, but I'm leaning Jeff Neal. I guess I'll go decision, but I'm not 100% on how he wins the fight.
Fair. It's hard because, like you said, Neil Magny knows how to. If he gets hurt, he knows what to do. He knows not to panic. He knows not to panic shot, because sometimes you'll get hurt and people will just panic shot. Right? He knows kind of to back up, maybe wait for them to present their hips and then wait for that shot. So he knows how to be smart with what he's doing when he gets hurt. I'm right there with you, man. I think Jeff Neal has he's better on the stand up, and I think with his phenomenal takedown defense, if he's able to keep it standing 2 of the 3 rounds, he can get it done. Mm-hmm. I think I'm right there with you, man. I'm going to take Jeff Neal, and I think by decision. I think Neil Magny has that experience to be able to survive in this fight, and I think it'll be able to. It's going to be a good one. Co-main event: Donald Cerrone versus Alex Morono. Who do you got taking in that one?
Going Cerrone. I think it's time we get back on track with a W here. I think he's technically substantially better than Morono on the feet. If he can keep the fight standing, that's a huge win for him. If he gets taken down, he's always been good off of his back. So I'm going to go Cerrone. Avoid the big shots. Please don't get knocked out. Get the W by decision.
Fair point. I really, this is a hard one for me to pick because it's like you watch Cowboys' last fights. It's like all of them. It's just knockout after knockout after knockout, right? His chin just falters so quickly. So I don't have faith in that chin. I love Cowboy as a fighter, and I think, he has a path to victory, and his path to victory is going to be, using his multifaceted amount of tools, being very diverse, mixing it up, and maybe even taking the fight to the ground, getting a takedown. I think that's what he can do. But I think for Morono, I think if he comes out and realizes that Cerrone starts slow, and if Cerrone starts slow again, this could be that could be it for him. I think I'm going to take first round knockout. I'm going to take Morono in a first round knockout. I think he puts him down. I think Cerrone starts slow again. He talks about those nerves a lot. I think it's getting to him, man. I think it's getting to him. Let's get to this main event. Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson. Who do you think takes it down?
I was going Marina Rodriguez right up until we basically started the show. I don't know what flipped in my head, but I just feel like Michelle Waterson has more avenues to win the fight. Marina Rodriguez showed me that she doesn't have great takedown defense. Don't know what the numbers are on that, but it doesn't feel like it's very good. Michelle Waterson's an underrated grappler. Her offensive wrestling, especially from the clinch, is better than people realize, I think. So I think she's able to get in and out, and then eventually, if Marina Rodriguez closes the distance, walks her down, and tries to turn it into a brawl, Muay Thai style type of fight, Michelle Waterson can get the takedown, probably win the fight from there. So I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson via decision.
Yeah, I think 100% spot on with there. I want to say what's up to Ronnie Pridgett Jr. Appreciate you checking us out, brother. Thanks for checking us out, man. Drop your picks for the main event or any other fights in the comments down below. I'm just curious who you guys taking for these fights tonight. As far as this fight goes tonight, like I said, I see this fight going similarly to the Jeff Neal, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, where Marina Rodriguez has a hard time closing that distance, hard time getting into that range that she wants to be able to. And I think if she does get in that range, I think Waterson has the ability to take her down. And if she's able to take her down, it's going to be a hard time for Rodriguez to work off her back to win this fight. When you have somebody like Michelle Waterson who understands the scoring aspect of MMA so well and just how to score points, she's someone who's kind of like a veteran in the mind, right? She understands just how to score points to win fights, and that's why she wins those split decisions, because she understands what to put in the judge's head to think that she's scoring and winning the fight. So I think this is a fight where we'll see Marina Rodriguez maybe have her moments, right? Be able to land some power shots. She does have knockout power, but it's going to be interesting to see if that lasts through 5 rounds. If she connects later in those, maybe, the 4th or 5th round before she gets taken down, is that shot going to hurt Michelle Waterson? That's going to be something we're going to have to wait and see. But as far as this fight goes, I think Michelle Waterson gets it done. I think she outscores her. I think she uses her kicks effectively. I think she takes it down whenever she needs to, and I think she'll get the win tonight. Let's get into our parlay. Let's get into a couple of picks for these fights, man. How do you see this? You can throw in some undercard fights in there as well. How do you see this one breaking down?
I went all main card. So we're going Maurice Green plus 180. These are all just perfect picks. Just got to win the fight. So I'm going Maurice Green plus 180. I think that fight is a little bit closer than the odds indicate. Diego Ferreira plus 132. I think that fight is less close than the odds indicate. Jeff Neal at minus 185. Jonathan and I both seem to think that he probably gets this W. I think it's a good fight for him, and I think he'll rise to the occasion. So I'll take him minus 185, and Michelle Waterson plus 190. She's an underdog. I don't think that's accurate. I think she has more avenues to win the fight, so I'm going with those 4 picks.
Nice, dude. Nice. As for mine goes, I'm going to start in the prelims. I'm going to start with an emotional pick with my boy Carlston Harris, right? Repping the hometown. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll say that he gets it done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Jeff Neal as well. And then I'm going to take Michelle Waterson by decision. So those are my 3 fights. You are looking at one. And if you want to throw another one on there, look at Klein. I'm going to take Klein over Trezano for that fight in the prelim. So little 4 fight parlay. We got Carlston Harris, Klein, Jeff Neal, Michelle Waterson, and get yourself a nice little parlay pick right there. Yes, any closing thoughts for this UFC card before we talk about what's going on next weekend?
No, let's talk about what's going on next weekend.
Awesome. Before we do that, I want to say Ayan Ali saying he's a fan of Miesha Tate because she was from Seattle like me. Does she still fight? Have you seen Miesha Tate? I don't think she's fought in a couple of years, right?
No, but the only person who isn't a fan of Miesha Tate is Ronda Rousey. The rest of us are fans.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. But yeah, next weekend we have an absolutely loaded card, man. Is it 262 or 263?
This is a good question, my friend. I've got the UFC thing right in front of me.
262. Right? So phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal card. In the main event, we have Charles Oliveira, Du Bronx, taking on Michael Chandler for the lightweight champion, man. That is going to be a fun fight. Any quick thoughts on that one?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm ready to go there. That's an insane fight, though. I can't wait for that. Holy moly. Michael Chandler has looked unbelievable unbelievable. And so is Charles Oliveira. That's a crazy fight.
That is an amazing fight. And that's not even just the only good fight on this card. The co-main event.
Oh my goodness.
Tony El Cucuy Ferguson taking on Beneil Dariush. Dariush just beat Diego Ferreira impressively. That's another fun one, man.
You got Jack Hermanson, Edmund Shabazian, Edson Barboza kicking off the card. Holy moly.
Versus Shane Burgos. Oh my God, that's going to be a good one.
Wow.
Lots of good fights on that card.
Sure.
Rogerio Bontorin versus Matt Schnell.
Mm-hmm.
Andre Muniz, Jacare Souza. Man, that's going to be a fun card. And we even lost the fight on that card, and that's still going to be a good card. So that's another good one as well. Yeah, man. Any final thoughts before we close things off here?
Let's wrap it up. Fights are starting soon. They start at 6, the prelims, or is it 5?
I think it's 6. Let me check that up right now.
I think it's 6 too. I think you're right.
So yeah, it's going to be 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus. So if you got ESPN Plus, which everybody should have ESPN Plus right now. Honestly, it was so worth it. Much more worth it than I thought it was going to be. But 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Main card is on ESPN. It is free. People, go ahead and watch these fights for free. Just go on ESPN, or you can go on your favorite,
No. We
don't
endorse that. No.
We don't endorse that, but yeah,
we won't be mad at you if you do.
We understand the financial situation. Everybody, or maybe sometimes you go to England and they don't have the fights, right? They don't have ESPN, so you have to do like something like that. Never. I almost missed the 2013 NBA Finals because of that. I went to England and they didn't have it on regular TV there, so I had to watch Game 6 of 2013 NBA Finals at like 5 o'clock in the morning on some backdoor website.
So I have a story about that finals too, real quick as we wrap up here. I was watching Game 6. I was living with my parents, so I was watching Game 6 with my dad, like I did all my life growing up. Thought it was over, of course, before Ray Allen hits the shot. And I had booked a trip to the Dominican Republic a few weeks prior, and I was leaving the next day. So Ray Allen hits the shot. Game goes into overtime. The Heat win. I get on a plane to the Dominican Republic. I get there. Get to the resort. Game 7, I watched in Spanish. I had an entire bottle of rum, and it was the best night of my life.
So you didn't think we were winning? You were like, "There's no Game 7. I'm just going to go on this trip."
Well, I had booked it before, but
right.
I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I thought the finals would be over by then. I was like 16. I was a stupid kid. I don't know.
Hey, that's still hella worth it, man.
One of the best nights of my life. Tell you that much.
Hey, always repping out here in South Florida. Shout out to the Heat. Shout out to the MMA. Also, Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders is on tonight. If you want to check out me and Alf's show on that, check out Fight Week on 5. It's a little bit earlier. We break down the Canelo fight, which is going to be a fun one as well. As always, I'm joined by my man Ariel. Thanks for everybody in the comments. Ayan, Ronnie, for checking us out on almost mixed the shows up. Walkouts and Knockouts brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Jonathan, and I hope you guys enjoy the fights.